Good morning, Service Lines community. How y'all doing today? What's up, brother Doug?
Good morning, man.
How you be?
Well, it's been a fun weekend, and I'm ready. You know what? Last night I was dreaming about work over and over. That normally tires me out. It was like in while I was dreaming, in the dream I was saying, "Don't forget these 3 points. Don't forget them." And the whole night, that's what I just kept telling myself. That was the dream over and over. Do this, do this, do this. And so I haven't forgotten them, and I can't wait to get to work to implement them. Who knows? Maybe it's groundbreaking. Probably not, though.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Yesterday was free tickets thanks to the Chamber of Commerce, which I'm a member of, but they must have had some sort of drawing, and I got Yankees tickets. And
oh,
what's weird
nice.
is I'm a Mets fan, and before that, a Red Sox fan. So literally, I can't really root for the Yankees, but it was a really good game. So had fun, me and my son.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know about any rest of the part of the country, but like to get from the stadium to the highway ramp was an hour and 15 minutes. It was like, I don't know, 2 miles maybe. Just the craziest sounds, sights. Like every fire hydrant was nearly opened and water blowing everywhere and people running through it and ambulances and Uber Eats people offering you food while you sit in traffic. It was just the craziest thing. I felt like I was in another country, man. It was pretty cool. Does that happen out in your way?
You just get
Chicago
shot if
like
you
that?
you
Oh,
just get shot if you go to Sox Park and
oh,
Wrigley. It's a free for all up there. You just never
yeah,
know what you're gonna find up there.
yeah,
Uh, Well, we had a good mastermind on Saturday. I'm still waiting for a new overlay, so sorry for the old overlay guys. You'll just have to deal today. Blame EJ. Uh,
Ooh, a little salty Monday morning. Love it.
no, it's just a fun little shot. But we did. We had a really good mastermind. We had a good group in there, and we're trying a little experiment with that group because we talked about business planning, and some people had a lot more questions, and it was kind of like drinking from a
Mm.
fire hose, and so we've offered those participants a chance to be a part of an experimental WhatsApp chat to have some accountability as they're doing business planning. So,
I'll tell you what, man. A networking meeting where people are engaged and it's just like going back and forth. It is the coolest environment to be in. I'm telling you.
yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
works really well. And, that's a lot of what we talk about on the morning grind as well. And today we're talking about hiring people the right way. And Doug and I both have hired people the wrong way. So we have a lot of things we can tell you to not do. And we do have some strategies that we can help you do it. And,
Trial and error. That's how it
yeah,
works, right? Trial and error.
yeah, you learn as you go. So, you
Yeah,
want to pray us up and we'll get into it?
absolutely. Lord God, we raise you up today, and we thank you that you give us everything that we need. God, help us with our hearts and make our desires to be um, the things that you want us to have in our lives. Help us, Lord, as we continue to navigate through this political realm. Give us peace, give us comfort. Lord, we trust in you that you will care for us no matter the outcome. And so, Lord, we thank you for being a God that was with us from the beginning and will always be with us till the end. Thank you for that promise of love and sacrifice on the cross. Lord, let us filter everything that we do and say through the cross as we can be witnesses to others. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. And the accountability I can get. Well, make sure you check your email. I didn't see in the group yet, brother. But we got it out there for you. It is important when you're trying to grow your business in whatever way you're trying to grow your business. That's why we hit on the masterminds
Mm.
so hard. So,
Yeah, to get stuck and then to get unstuck by a peer is a wonderful thing. Kind of
yep,
gets your momentum back up.
yep, 100%. So we're talking about growing our team the right way. And what is the right way? Well, it could be different for each of you, but we have some things that we've done along the way that have either worked out well or not worked out well. So let's talk about that. Doug, what you want to start with the bad or do you want to start with the good? Which way you want to go, buddy?
Well, let's start at looking back on like an 11-year journey.
Mhm.
And the first thing, like the foundational part of it, was growing by accident or just growing because you see a tiny opportunity here and there, kind of being reactive instead of intentional. I think if I could do it all over again, just to start at that spot, I would say I wish that I was made a plan, set some goals, and tried to make a team of size and quality that I wanted instead of what was coming through the doors and what opportunities came my way. We made the best of it, 11 years doing this as running the company, and literally size of technicians and revenue has doubled. So I guess in some circles that would be a success. But it was through hard work and making good and bad decisions. But it wasn't planned. There wasn't strategic all the time. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I think I'd rather be strategic. That's the takeaway. I'd rather be strategic.
Yeah. I was going to say it can be a bad thing, right? Like you can grow in the wrong direction. Right. And then you end up with just a bunch of overhead and not a lot of output. Right. And so that's not really a good way to grow. That's not really a great way to bring your team up. And then you end up with the wrong people in the wrong seats, and you go through some pain trying to correct that, right? I think for me, one of the things that I've learned, and it's taking, again, looking back on how I grew my team. Tommy Mello talks about it in the book, Elevate. You guys out there that are only paying $14 an hour and you think you're the greatest company out there with the promise that maybe in 2 years. I think if I had to do it again, I would follow the method that he talks about with performance pay, right? Like I only knew what I knew. I only knew what I was taught. And that doesn't mean it was right. And so if I had to do it all over again, when I was recruiting, I'd be recruiting using performance pay. I'd be looking for people who were motivated, right? Who had that A player mentality. Maybe they weren't A players yet, but they had the mindset of an A player and the willingness to grow. And instead of just slamming bodies in because we had so many calls and we had so much to do and there wasn't enough time, hiring out of desperation. If you are at a point in your business where there is so much work and you don't know what to do, still take your time, hire slowly, fire fast, but hire slowly. I mean, just from my experience, that would be one of the things that I would have changed. I would have changed how I recruited.
It's a multi-pronged thing that you got to work on all at the same time, which can sometimes get your brain frazzled. But hire slowly is, I think, another way of you saying that might be, just don't take everyone off the street that's mechanically inclined and they can get into a customer's home. But can you imagine if you could get, your company culture in line and you can get your mission and vision statement in line, and that you're recruiting for the big picture of being world class or whatever the words are that represent your company, and have people standing outside the door waiting to get in. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, is to have, when I have a slot open, I've got a group of people that are vying and fighting to be that person to come on board. So you got to do that. So to do that, you got to have great process and procedure. And you also have to have a good team of people there. So to me, sometimes lately, our last 2 out of 3 hires came from internal referrals. And that first came from my friend Adam Butcher of Fred's Appliance, he always said that's where you're going to find gold. Because if there's somebody working for you that loves it at this place, they will endorse you and paint a picture for their friend or their referral before they even get to you. You're pitched and sold. And then when they come on board, they've got that relationship already. And you can build from there if you support them well. So, but it is a whole bunch of different things you kind of got to do at the same time. If you don't have great process and procedure, you can bring the greatest people on and you're going to have a bottleneck of frustration. If you don't have a great training program or decent training program, I think Tommy Mello recently said, it's always evolving, his training program. It's never the same.
It can't stay stagnant, right?
Because you're just gonna right, and you're gonna something's gonna go wrong that you couldn't have anticipated, and then you got to say, could this happen again? Sure. Well, then add that to it, fix it, modify your training program. So it's an evolution.
That was one of the things that we talked about on Saturday in the business planning is don't grow before you're ready to grow. Right. If you start to try and grow too soon and you haven't mapped out some of these other things, your goals, your SOPs, your, some basic structure for your company, you're building a business on a foundation of sand and you're just going to wash away the minute that first storm comes. So, and I guess that's what I was saying about hiring out of desperation. I didn't have the process. I didn't have the goals. I didn't know where the hell I was going. Right. And I had too much work that I didn't know what to do with, and I was just bringing bodies in to get the work done. So yeah, make sure that before you even think about recruiting, who am I as a company?
Yeah,
where the heck am I heading to? Right, get those SMART goals and figure that out. Get some processes and procedures. You're out there doing service calls. Are you writing this stuff down on a notebook in the truck? Are you putting it on a document back at home? Are you figuring out, like, I always do this when I go on a service call. I always do this when I'm talking to a customer about a new claim. I always, like, start writing that stuff down because you got to be able to train your people well. And then, like Doug said, you're once you do have that first 1, 2, 3 employees, are you giving them a bonus for bringing that other person on? Right? Are you giving them a bonus for being awesome and recommending the company and bringing another A player to the team? Because really, if you've created the culture, if you've created a place where the process is repeatable and people enjoy being there, they are going to want to invite their friends. They are going to do that marketing for you, and they should be rewarded for that. Recruiting new people is expensive, right? Like, we spend a lot of money to do that, and sometimes we're throwing the money in the wrong direction.
I think, Zach, we've all been in situations, doesn't have to be your company, but in a group or an organization where there's a bad apple in there. It's somebody who just doesn't fit. They're not bad, like they're
just not the right fit.
Humans, not the right fit, but and so the energy, the words, the actions that they say literally push back and against and erode what you're trying to build. So again, wouldn't it be great if the relationship aspect was kind of already in motion before they come on board? You're bringing on a friend or a relative or somebody like that. That aspect, the cohesiveness is already starting before they even come on board. So that's a game changer, I think, for us. So we're the paying them well too, like literally. I mean, it's worth thousands, and you can give it to them over time. I'd say, but I'll tell you something. I mean, I'm just thinking of it now. Imagine if every year I gave some sort of diminishing return. Like we do 1,500. Half when they hire and half after 6 months. But what if for the next 2 or 3 years I just kept giving 500 at the end of the year, on the anniversary of the new hire, and then 300, and then 200, and then 100, and 5 years down the road, that referral is still giving back, showing our appreciation if that employee is still there. So and then that's just going to, I think, help multiply that effort, right?
Yeah, and I forget which book it's from, but when you're looking for people, they got to get it, they got to want it, and they got to have
Yeah.
the capacity to do it. They got to have all three.
Yeah.
It's amazing that I can't remember which book. But there's far too many rattling around in my head. But get it, want it, have the capacity to do it. And so actually the most effective strategy, or the most effective place that I've put this, is in the volunteer world. As we've recruited new sound guys to the team, you want to challenge yourself, right? On leadership, on your ability to grow a team. Go get into leadership and volunteer work. I've had 14 years of doing it the wrong way. Really, just in the last 2 years has the entire team come together to recruit in the right way. So it started with the pastor, and then we have a ministry leader over top of that, and then we have myself. And so the three of us have really changed our mindset and how we're going for people. One person will go and go, hey, listen, I see a heart and a passion to serve, and I see, a little bit of ability. And then I'll pass it off to the next person, and okay, so I see this and this, and then they'll pass it off to me. And then I go and work with that person, and I spend the time pouring into them. And that has produced some of the best volunteers that we've ever had, right? And continuing to show improvement, appreciation, and then when you work with them, right? So I give them a pathway. So I have 3 different sound guys at 3 different stages. They've all been with me different lengths of time. And so the newest guy, he's like, man, I'm just trying to figure out all the buttons and all the things that I have to do on Sunday morning. I'm like, that's perfect. I'm here to help. I'm here to equip. If there's more detailed stuff that has to happen, we'll go through what it is, but I'm not gonna burden you with that yet. So that talks into structure. So when you're hiring people, you have to have a process and a structure that you're going through as you're training them. And then you have to give them a growth vertical. Where are we heading to? Right? I want these guys to be able to do stuff outside of this. I want them to do whatever they want to do. Right? I want to equip them. I'd rather not have to touch the soundboard ever again. I love it. I love mixing sound. I really do. But I would rather not have to touch it. If I've grown a team that has the capacity to surpass me and do things much better than I can, man, that would just make my heart so happy. Right?
Yeah. What, in the volunteer aspect, right? I think the W, want it, is probably the biggest part of it. That they really, why it's a volunteer job, so they really want it. Now, do they have the capacity, and do they get it? Right. But I think in the business world, want it is something that we probably put at the end of the list. At least I have. Like last year, we didn't have a technician for Rhode Island. Not one person could go out there. So we were basically shut down. So I interviewed somebody, and during the interview process, I chose to put the red flags away a little bit. Like, hey, do I have to work weekends? Will I be able to control my day so I can get home by 4? Do I have to be performance-based pay? Can I be hourly? These are just gigantic red flags, because you really want somebody that is excited about the opportunity to make something great out of what we're trying to offer them. And but I needed someone really bad. Did not last 6 weeks. I mean, and if it was me 2 years earlier, that would have been stretched out to 2 months or 4 months or 5 months. Oh boy, But I'm learning to pull the trigger faster. But now I'm realizing I got to pull the trigger at the time of interview. They really need to want it. They really need to want it. And if they've got a lot of hoops that we're going to have to jump through, then that means that they don't see the opportunity there. And it's okay. They're just the wrong person for us.
Well, and I think as we're on our search, we do need to change the order of that, right? They have to want it.
Yeah.
We have to help them get it, right?
Yep.
And then, figure out if they do actually get it. And then we have to figure out if they have the capacity to do it. How many of us, especially in the technical world, we start with the capacity to do it, and then we just ignore the other two?
Sure.
Did it.
Yeah.
Did it multiple times. I got the t-shirt, and it was
Yeah.
oh boy, it was not fun.
You wonder if there's a number one out of that. Can you prioritize those? Is it really is this a stackable thing, or is
I
it?
think they all have to happen, but I just think we think about them in the wrong order. We start looking, oh, they got the capacity to do it, and then we just like forget about the other ones.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think they all have to happen, but I think because we put that priority on capacity to do it, then we ignore the want it and the get it, and so that's why I think if we're going to do it, we have to change the order in our minds so we don't forget the other steps along the way. So and it's our job to help them get it right. We have to have a clear structure, and so that's where you can grow too soon. You can start to hire too soon. If you don't know who you are as a business owner, if you haven't set your goals, if you haven't even have a moderate direction of the way that you want to go, they're never going to get it because you don't get it, right? Yeah. As the owner, as the leader, you have to understand. And again, going back to the volunteer thing, that's what changed it for us, right? We had a leadership change in the church. The pastor changed out, a bunch of the other leadership changed out. And so once they figured out what their goals were and what the growth strategy was, and they passed that down their leadership team, and it got to me, I finally understood the direction we were trying to head, and I could start recruiting, and I could start empowering, and I could start sharing that dream of the direction that we're heading with people, right? So if you don't understand the why, if you don't understand where you're heading, nothing else matters. You're just hiring.
Yeah. And if you're a good storyteller, Zach, almost anyone would want to jump on board if you're pitching just amazing stuff. But they really, really have to want it, because the only way for it to happen is for all of us to step up and step in when it's difficult to make it work. And how about this? I'm reading this book called Crucial Conversations, and there's a chapter in it. Right. There's a chapter in it. It's a basic psychological principle, I think, that this author's kind of enhancing, which is that we will see an action. We will see or hear something. And in our minds, we begin to make a story, our story of what we saw or heard. And there's nothing wrong with that, but be careful, because the story could eventually become fact, which becomes truth. And now you're isolated from reality slightly, or you're just kind of being blocked by reality a little bit, and you're now on charge with this story. And some great storytellers will bring other people on board with it. So what is truth? And I guess I'm getting to, for the last few years, 3 to 5 years, this work-life balance, that technicians don't want to work longer hours if they have at all. They don't want that opportunity. They don't want money. They want time. And I have completely bought into this story and made way more truth out of it than it probably really is, especially with the economy at where it's at now. I believe that even if there was a shift of people with opportunity to make this much money and be happy, now the money we're making isn't going to achieve that. We have to be prepared to wipe away that narrative that we have, that people don't want to work past 4. All right, so they're willing to take home $60,000 a year instead of 75 or 70. Yep, that's the story. If I keep telling myself that, I will not find those great people who are going, show me an opportunity. I could get sucked into the trap and go, performance-based pay, it's scary. The workforce doesn't want that. Change everything, or a lot of things that are fundamentally what made us great. We want amazing people who want to take advantage of the opportunity to make the most of it, to work smarter and not harder, to be effective and to take care of our customers and in turn make a lot of money, make a career out of it. But can you imagine if I just stayed on that path of who cares about bonuses? Just give them time off. That's me making up a story about maybe the truth, but probably not the truth, right?
And the reality is some people might want that, but then you're more than likely
fit for us.
Your A players are going to kind of want a combination of that, right? So I look at the team that we have in roofing, and the reason that the top three of us are the top three is because we put in more hours than anyone else, because we get it, we want it, and we have the capacity to do it, right? And then we get out there and get after it. Now, we may have to tell ourselves winter is coming, right? And we may have to just keep drilling that into our heads when it's 9 o'clock at night and we're finally getting home from the day. But for us, there is a combination of the performance pay. The better that we do, the more that we sell, the more money comes into us. And then looking at time off towards the winter time, right? You could have combinations of people within that. You could have people that are like, listen, when the money's there, when we're in summertime, I'm willing to put in 12-hour days. I'm willing to do 10 calls a day. I'm willing to do all this stuff. You could have that, but if you don't offer that opportunity, if you don't really seek to understand who your candidate is, you're never going to know. And so really drilling in, and if I was going back to do this all over again and hiring technicians, I'd ask a heck of a lot more questions, right? I would be trying to really get a feel and an understanding of who they were as a person and what their goals are. Listen, if you have a recruit and they don't have any goals or dreams, thanks for coming. Appreciate you coming out, but it's not the right fit. Because if you have a person who doesn't have goals and dreams, they're just going to float around. They're going to be a body in a truck, and it's not going to help you in the long run. And then you're going to have to spend the money just to go and recruit someone else again. So that's a huge red flag that if I was doing it all over again, I would work on asking more questions to understand, does this person have any goals? Do they have any dreams? And Tommy talks about it. He talks about kind of throwing them some curveballs and digging in a little deeper, right? How many of us in the interview process just go surface level to try and figure out where they are as a person? And then, oh, yep, that's good. All right, great. Got a body for the truck. Let's go.
Yeah. And in the pre-roll, I was telling you, we read a couple books together where the first time I heard, in an interview process that you need to make it hard for the interviewee. You need to kind of scare them a little bit that this job isn't a guarantee. You're going to have to kind of show me something. And when they do, you push back a little bit. And I was like, that first author, but reading Elevate and Tommy Mello, it's affirmed it. It's true. If we're really hiring for the best, then you're going to want to push back a little bit and see how they resist or how they fight back. And if they're willing to fight for the position that you're interviewing for, that's something you can't train. Yep. You can't train that stuff, know? And just a qualified comment, Dan, I can see Dan, Dr. Dan is on here, even Saul, us old timers, the industry more or less in the way the workforce was back in the 80s, even a little bit in the 90s, it was this or you're out. So it was 10, 12 hours, no choice, no option. And I feel like I know I worked for a company that understaffed. They could have used more techs, but they just used us more, keeping that expense line down. I'm not trying to do that today. But if somebody wants to take a couple extra calls a day because they got a dream, they got a goal, they want to buy a house, they want to earn an extra $15,000 this year because they want to put a down payment on a boat, whatever it is. If you're dreaming, I'm going to give you an opportunity to hit that dream and make that dream happen. But other than that, if somebody just wants a good career, we're not going to put them out 50, 60 hours a week, June, July, August, September, October. even November. We're not going to, we don't do that anymore. But when you were a kid, Zach, that's what they used to do.
My dad looked at me in 5th grade. You want money? Get a job, right?
Yeah,
I started baling hay for my godfather in 5th grade. I did that till I was a junior in college. But yeah, I mean, the world has really changed. So to this, I don't think it's overrated, Andrew. You might actually be going through something, but it is our job as leaders in a company to figure out where people are, right? Had someone approached me in that manner, I wouldn't be heading the direction that I am, right? I did have hopes and dreams. I do have things and goals that I want to achieve. But I had been beaten down for so long. I had gone through so much stuff that I had forgotten how and what direction I even wanted to go. And so I'm not saying automatically write someone off, but I am saying ask more questions, because if you ask more questions, you can figure out if they're just going through something right now and they've forgotten how to dream, right? They may have had a dream at one point in time. They may have had some goals at one point in time, and they may have given up on them because they're just going through it. So it's our jobs as leaders to awaken in people the stuff that's been suppressed, the stuff that's been forgotten. And if we're not doing that, then we're failing our team. I know that's kind of a harsh comment, but that is our job as leaders, is to build people up. And so I think hopes and dreams are important. I think goals are extremely important. And we may all be at different stages, but it's our job as leaders to really awaken that within people. And if we're not doing that, we got no business being in leadership.
You know something, Zach? I don't think I had hopes and dreams until 5 years ago, to be honest with you. I just knew that I had to work. I mean, I had hopes and dreams of having a family, but I'm talking about beyond that. Oh yeah, you're covered, Val. Don't worry about it. Yeah. I want, yeah. But besides that, it was like the job helped me achieve the family.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful and great. But when your kids grow up and they're out doing their own thing, what are you hoping and dreaming for? So building something, making something, creating something, being a part of an organization that helps others, or climbing Mount Everest, whatever it is, you're hoping that your job, your career is going to be something that helps build upon that and get you there, you know. So I can relate to Andrew. Now I've also hired like 3 guys that said, I don't need money at different times. I don't need money, or I am just bored and I'm fascinated by appliance repair. And I'm like, is this real? This is really cool. And they came on board, and one of the guys said all the greatest things. I looked at your website, and he just like listed off a whole bunch of things that fascinated me that he recognized about, and it wasn't in the industry. You only do COD work. Wow. I look at that's so smart. That's the way to be the most profitable. You know, your reviews point this and this and this out. So he goes, I'd love to come work for you. Those are the 3 biggest train wrecks out of the dozens and dozens of people that I've hired in the last 20 years. If you don't need money, and if you don't have a goal that you're trying to aim for, you're kind of wandering. You're just wandering out there, and it's going to affect your job eventually. So I'd rather hire people that have a passion or desire. If they said, I want to open my own appliance company one day, I don't know. I think I might even hire that guy. You know why? Because I'm going to work my butt off to make it so attractive that he doesn't go.
Right.
He doesn't leave. And
and that's
a competitor. That's okay. I'll continue to expand and grow in areas that we're not in. It doesn't stop me from wanting to grab somebody that's super hungry and want to learn the whole industry. I love it.
And that goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. If we don't have performance pay, if we don't have a growth vertical, if we don't have goals ourselves, right, as business owners, then we're never going to retain. If you're approaching, I guess I want to finish with this. If you are approaching business with the mindset that I just need to fill a truck to get the work done so that I can have some money and some freedom, you're stopping short, right? It's our job as leaders to create a place where people want to come and stay, and they might not, right? They could only be there 7 years, and they might go out and they might start their own company. There's nothing wrong with that, but our job is to create a place where people don't want to leave. They really do enjoy working there.
Sure.
And they really do find fulfillment in what they're doing. And if we haven't created a space where people can find fulfillment, then that's on us, right? Like I'm not opposed. Let them go and start their own. I've watched more guys leave me and go and start their own companies, and I'm watching them fail and flounder because they didn't have goals. They didn't have things that they wanted to do, right? Like I've watched 3 of them close down already. They started them up and they closed down.
Yeah.
And my duty was to create a place for them. And I failed at that, right? Like I failed at creating that place. And so that's on me as a leader. It's not about fear. And listen, there are a lot in our industry that are like, oh my God, we can't have more competitors, and we can't. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying if I have people leaving me to start a company, I need to look in the mirror and figure out, where could I have done better?
Sure.
What was my duty in this, and where were my shortcomings so that I can correct that?
Right.
I look at leadership as a very introspective, right? We have to look in the mirror, and we have to be honest with ourselves as we're doing this. And if we're not doing that, what are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
No, people can tell when you hold back. Customers, employees.
Yep.
Obviously, you probably don't always give out your complete recipe to your secret sauce, but I know with employees, I feel like the best thing that we can do is be very transparent about the best part of running a business and the worst parts. And, from there, somebody might say, I don't want to put in the extra 10 to 20 hours a week running my own business. I'd rather do it for you guys, but I love to show them the whole story, because, the grass is always greener on the other side, until you find out later. So that would be tragic for me to find somebody who years later left us and said, man, I had no idea how hard it was. And, a couple times I thought about coming back, you guys, but I didn't think you'd take me back. I mean, that would bother me. So let me just share them, that our monthly expenses are, over a couple $100,000 a month, and you have to cover that before you get your profit. Refund Viking range, that $950 parts going to sit on the shelf, that ripped linoleum floor for $2,500 coming out of our pocket. That just add that to the couple $100,000 every month. And, we didn't make any profit this month. Show them, let them be a part of it. It's so fascinating, I think, to be a part of that. That's who I'd want, is 20 techs that want to know what the heck is up and how do we succeed here. And if I lose 3 of them, then I'll just go west. I'll open up a location in New York, west of Connecticut. I'll just hire 4 or 5 guys out that way, and more competition, the merrier, right?
You got a guy going through that right now, and we hope the best for him. We absolutely, we encourage him. We do whatever we can for him.
Oh, sure. You
have a former employee going through that right now and finding out the ins and outs of what it is to run a company. And when you look back on those moments, right? Like I've kept tabs on the guys that have opened their business that started with me. And like I said, I've watched 3 of them completely fail. And I've watched some of them have to change company names because they piss customers off so bad. And so you look back and you go, man, what was my responsibility in this? Like where could I have done better? Appliance repair? No. I 10 out of 10, I would not own another appliance repair company. and that was an honest introspection. I don't have passion for it. I do have passion for you guys in the audience, and I can speak to this because I've been through it for so long, and I'm still engaged in the community. But 10 out of 10, I wouldn't open another appliance repair company. Running my own company, I haven't ruled it out yet, buddy. I haven't ruled it out. But I wouldn't go back into appliance repair. It's not my heart. It's not my passion. And I had to be honest with myself about that,
If I just draw on the energy of the latest book that, Service Alliance is doing with Elevate, I haven't read this from this guy, Tommy Mello, but I had this feeling he'd say something like, I don't care if they become my competition. It doesn't matter to me. I'm just looking for someone who wants to grow, learn, exceed, be the best that they can be. And if they go, fine. I just imagine that, and Action Appliance, we've been around a long time. I can know for sure there's 4, but possibly 5 ex-employees that run businesses. And all but one who, was a pretty salty fellow himself, I try to stay connected with. And you know what, man, I hope they succeed, because there's room for us all out there.
Oh yeah.
And wouldn't it be, I'd actually be knowing that Action Appliance did the right thing if they could say, hey, there was things that I do because of Action Appliance, or the way that you do things, or your culture, that we've copied. Or not copied, but adopted. And that's beautiful. That's what we need to. That if you try to avoid that, then you're not going to be your authentic self. You're going to be kind of keeping secrets. Didn't Sears do that for a little while? Or at least it's a rumor. Let's just train them in laundry only.
No, that's not a rumor. That's legitimate. That's what they did.
I don't know if it's a myth or not, but talk about how dumb that was. I've had ex-Sears guys say, yeah, I was just a laundry guy, so I'm writing the receipt in the kitchen, and they're asking about the refrigerator, and I say, oh, we don't do that. You got to call. And I go, oh, so do they come back for free? Oh, no, I tell them they have to pay a service fee. It just went right over their head how lame that sounded. Mm-hmm. But paranoia from the top is going to come down the pike. And with paranoia, there might be other things that were sound decisions that had to be made. But since employees don't trust the people above, they're going to assume and make up their own myths about whatever other things you put in place, But if you're authentic and you explain to them why and what we do, I think it's setting you up for success.
Well, I guess that was my point. It's the major takeaway from all this is you need to look in the mirror at yourself always. Before you hire, as you're hiring, after you've hired, right? Like you need to always be looking in the mirror and figure out, how can I be 1% better today? Mm-hmm. And then tomorrow, how can I be 1% better? Right? Every day, you need to find that improvement.
Yep.
It's man, it is a journey. And everyone out there doing it, I commend you. And I encourage you to really take that hard look in the mirror at how you're doing things, what you could do better, what you're doing well, right? Because the reality is you have things that you're doing extremely well, but you might have one thing that you're doing wrong. So just be honest with yourself in those strengths and weaknesses, right? The SWOT analysis is, we need to be honest and take that honest look at what we're doing. So
yeah.
Man, I hope you guys get out there. I hope you're able to recruit as many employees as your goals and your dreams require.
Hire them like they're partners.
Yeah,
that's what I say. Like look at Orlando's question at the end there. I'm taking it from my own spin. What's the best way to approach a service call? Have a technician arriving who thinks and believes that this business they work for is their own. They're going to have the eyes of someone who wants to knock their socks off. And he or she's not going to say no, right? First thing out of their mouth. Hey, could you help me? Do you do this? No, no. They're going to just want to try to make a customer for life because they're treating it like their own business. That's your best type of employee, is someone who will treat it like it's their own business. And so if you pay them well, treat them well, keep them in the loop, and get them excited about the goals for the company and give them incentives that line up with the goals, that's a partnership that you can build a great company on.
Yep. Get out there, serve your customers well, guys. Serve your teammates well, and we will see you next time on the Morning Grind. Have a good day,
Have a great
guys.
one, guys. Thanks.